pride themselves on warmth, authentic connection, and community.
Yeah.
Why do they desperately need cold, mechanical corporate systems just to survive?
Right. It sounds totally counterintuitive.
It really does. I mean, you usually don't picture like flowcharts and massive binders of standard operating procedures when you think of a highly relational group. You just picture people.
Exactly.
But today, we are going to decode how to move literally any organization from merely surviving to truly multiplying. And we're doing it by looking at a really fascinating case study, which is church management.
It's honestly arguably the ultimate stress test for organizational theory.
Oh, totally.
Because, I mean, think about it. If you can successfully systematize an environment that relies almost entirely on volunteerism, personal connection, and shared belief, well, you can apply those exact same frameworks to scale basically any business or startup.
That's exactly the mission today. And to figure this out, we're pulling from a pretty unique stack of materials for this deep dive.
We really are.
We've got this intriguing class promotion from the Scholar Bible Institute, that's from 2024,
Right.
and a presentation on expanding core standard operating procedures, or SOPs, by Michael Moore from late April 2026.
Yeah.
Plus, we have this masterclass level set of critical thinking questions that really bridges the gap between theology and just pure operational
It's
mechanics.
a great mix of sources.
It is. Okay, so let's unpack this. I have to start with this hilarious but, painfully relatable visual from the class ad in the
Oh,
sources.
the sheep graphic.
Yes, the sheep. So there's this ad featuring two sheep. The first one basically represents the overwhelmed leader. It's wide-eyed, completely terrified, and practically drowning in these sticky notes.
Right, with notes saying, like, who's doing what.
Yeah, or volunteer ghosted.
It's a painfully accurate snapshot of just absolute operational chaos.
But then on the other side of the ad, you have the second The second sheep, and this one is just leaning back, wearing sunglasses, sipping coffee.
Living the dream.
Exactly. And it has this badge that says SOP champion. And the quote under
Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we're just going to dive right into this because if you're a church leader, you probably know the exact feeling I'm about to describe. It's a Sunday morning, and instead of feeling like a peaceful worship service, it feels a whole lot more like a five-alarm fire drill. Well, today we're talking about exactly how to turn that Sunday chaos into peaceful, predictable church growth. And the secret? Honestly, it's not some trendy new marketing tactic. It's actually something much simpler: standard operating procedures, or SOPs. Picture this: an incredibly stressed, overwhelmed sheep, frantically running around representing that disorganized panic of, wait, where are the keys? And who is supposed to be doing what right now? If that hits a little too close to home, take a deep breath. It's okay. Your church likely isn't dysfunctional, you're just lacking systems. But contrast that frantic energy with the feeling of total peace of mind. That relaxed, calm confidence, that only happens when you actually have a solid system in place. And really, this is the core shift we need to make together. We're talking about moving away from the draining reality of a personality-driven Sunday scramble, the one filled with all those chaotic last-minute questions, and stepping into the absolute clarity of a system-driven church. When everyone simply knows their role, teamwork genuinely does make the dream work. You finally get to stop relying on sheer willpower and coffee and start relying on a structured, predictable flow. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll talk about why we need to stop winging it, then why systems literally save your sanity. After that, we'll break down the 3 mission-critical SOPs, look at the remaining essentials, cover some traps you absolutely must avoid, and wrap it all up with a totally doable 30-day implementation plan. Let's get moving. Stop winging your Sundays and the true cost of chaos. So what actually happens when a growing church relies purely on hope and good intentions instead of a concrete, repeatable plan? Well, the answer is pretty staggering. 70 to 90%. Just let that sink in for a second. 70 to 90% is the number of guests that most churches lose simply because they lack a clear follow-up system. When you don't have a plan for exactly what happens after someone walks through your doors, you're effectively letting all of your hard outreach efforts leak right out the back door. It is a massive, heavy cost for organizational chaos. Moving into section 2, why systems save your sanity and escaping the overwhelm. If the real problem here is chaos and losing guests, then repeatable systems are absolutely your ultimate antidote. It's simple. Consistency drives excellence. Standard procedures guarantee reliable quality across every single ministry area, and they help your teams navigate those high-stakes moments with total confidence. But honestly, the most important part? Repeatable systems free you, the leader, from getting bogged down in the administrative weeds so you can finally get back to focusing on your true mission and outreach. Which brings us to section 3, the 3 mission-critical SOPs. Focus here first. Listen, you don't have to tackle everything at once. In fact, please don't. It's overwhelming. You just need to focus on what moves the needle immediately. And here is the absolute most important SOP to start with: guest assimilation. Because let's be real, if this isn't systemized, nothing else really matters. This defines exactly what happens from the very moment a guest walks in the door until 30 days later. It covers those warm initial encounters, the intentional follow-up, and the personalized connections that actually make a guest feel seen. The core flow here is incredibly actionable. Think of it like a paved pathway. A visitor arrives and our contact information is captured. Then, boom, there's a 24-hour follow-up, a 72-hour touchpoint, a 7-day invite to return, all perfectly leading to a 30-day integration into your community. Having a structured pathway like this systematically takes someone from being a first-time visitor to a fully integrated, thriving member. Okay, the second of our big three is weekly service execution. This is the one that completely removes that who is doing what today confusion. By nailing down a structured service flow, thorough preparation, and consistent quality experiences, you literally eliminate Sunday morning anxiety. And remember the golden rule here. Consistent execution builds trust, and trust, that's what actually builds return attendance. The third critical SOP is decision-making and authority. I like to think of this as your leadership clarity engine. Without a decision-making SOP, every single small choice requires a giant committee meeting, and organizational growth just dies, right? We absolutely need clear role assignments and transparent decision pathways so your teams can actually seize opportunities without getting tied up in delays. To get that clarity, we rely on a super simple framework. It goes like this. The pastor or ministry leader decides on the daily ministry execution. Easy. The team decides on collaborative initiatives. And the elders or the board, they decide on doctrine, overall direction, and major finances. When you empower distinct levels of authority like this, it allows your church to move fast and stay laser-focused on the mission. Section 4. Completing the 8 essentials. The rest of your minimum viable operating system. So, the big 3 get you started, but there are 5 more pillars that round out your operating system. First, communication, both internal and external, because no communication basically equals assumed dysfunction. Next is volunteer management. Why? Because burnout will kill a small church faster than bad theology, literally. Then financial handling. And hey, this isn't just about boring spreadsheets, it's totally non-negotiable for trust and legal protection. Discipleship pathways are next. These ensure your growth doesn't leak out by moving people from visitor to leader. And finally, conflict and care, which resolves those dangerous, silent killers of a healthy church culture. Section 5, SOP traps to avoid, what not to do. Now, believe it or not, well-meaning leaders often over-engineer their systems early on, and they end up causing way more harm than good. So beware of these pitfalls. Do not write over-detailed committee bylaws or complex governance documents too soon. If you haven't clarified real authority yet, those bylaws just become pure fiction. Avoid over-engineering programs for ministries that aren't even stable yet. And please steer clear of rigid worship SOPs that suffocate all the authenticity out of the room. Remember, a church of 50 people needs right-sized, high-leverage structure, not a massive corporate reporting dashboard. Section 6. The 30-day implementation plan, turning all of this theory into action.
All right, it's time to get these systems up and running, and we're going to do it in just 1 month. Week 1, you establish leadership clarity first. You have to define who decides what, or nothing else is going to work. Week 2, you roll out your guest assimilation and your service SOP to instantly impact growth and give you some Sunday peace. Week 3, you stabilize your operations with volunteers and communication. And finally, Week 4, you secure your foundation with finance and discipleship pathways. Building it logically like this guarantees a super smooth rollout.
Ultimately, guys, SOPs are not just about creating boring documentation that sits in a binder somewhere. They are about mastering high-impact moments. It's about systematically removing the guesswork and variability during the most critical interactions, like warmly greeting a guest or executing a beautiful service, because those are the moments that absolutely shape your church's growth. And this is the ultimate goal right here. Shift from a personality-driven church to a systems-driven church. Systems are not an administrative burden to weigh you down. They're actually the vehicle for sustainable peace, deep purpose, and lasting impact. Because when the system carries the weight, your people are finally free to do the actual ministry. So, I'm going to leave you with this one question to ponder today. Which of the big 3 SOPs, guest assimilation, service execution, or decision-making, are you going to build this week to finally reclaim your Sunday? Just pick one, start that 30-day plan, and watch the chaos turn into absolute clarity. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.
Oops. Lopez, what's going on?
Man, I'm good.
You good?
Yes, sir, I'm good. I'm good. I had a little challenge coming in, but boom shakalaka. Glad you're back. I can't help it, but how did it go? I might have missed it. You know,
What you mean?
your visit to Florida or Colorado.
Yeah, we were in Colorado this weekend.
Well, I
And
know that was one of your boom, boom, boom. And just if you don't mind, I thank you guys for your patience. Just give me some kind of good word, boom shakalaka.
what's that mean?
It means boom. It means there it is. That bam, boom, bam. I rest my case. Boom shakalaka.
We had a great time though. We had a really good time. And
Okay.
the church responded really well. But of course, like I keep saying, even if I do an exceptional job, what's crazy is that after the service, after the morning worship service, a woman made a beeline straight towards me, and Neil, when I said she said, I'm full of the Spirit, and she said, and begin to prophesy over me.
That's like a sign, isn't it?
I don't know if it's a sign. Things like that have happened to me over the years, where people just come out of the blue and speak to my life, or speak over my life, as some people call it. And a lot of people were impacted by the message. It was the Bible study, as well as the message, was really well received. And I don't think that church had been in an environment where they could really experience revival again and be excited about the gospel. And I think some of those members who were older, it was a refresher to have a service where the gospel seemed to be the main focus, not just this byline at the bottom. But matter of fact, I taught from John 4, which was the water pot thing we came
The
up with.
woman. Oh, I preached. It's time to go up higher too.
Yeah. No. I didn't preach it's time to go up higher. I preached.
No, I did.
Oh, okay. Matter of fact, it's crazy because I got that written down on
I
my
did,
paper.
man.
I preached something worth leaving your water pots for,
Oh man, yeah.
out of John, and then I connected the John 4 text to John 2, where there are 6 water pots there being filled with water, and it demonstrates God's work in man through the Holy Spirit. And then this woman
Comes
then
up.
becomes, yes. Well, and I only taught it from the standpoint of the 3 points I taught was that the water pot was about 60 pounds, and you went to the well twice a day, but you carried it because it was so much weight. You carried it on your shoulder or on your head. And so the first point was, the premise was, what would be so important that would make you leave something that was essential for something that becomes vital? And so
Whoa.
what she left at the master's feet was the pot, which symbolized the burden that was on her shoulder. And then I showed that the clay pot was different from the stone pot, because the clay pot was impure in their culture. It was to use the clay pot was was a sign of sin. And so when you come to Jesus, not only
Whoa.
did she put her burden down, but she put her sins down. And then I showed that the Jacob's well that she was at was considered stagnant water. And in their culture, stagnant water was not preferred. They preferred to find fresh water, spring water, or what the Bible calls living water. So because the question was, she left her water pot at the well, but she left being filled. So what was she filled with when she had? So yeah, that was the whole
Whoa.
text.
Yeah, man. I almost switched up, man, but I couldn't. It's still
Yeah,
on my agenda. Um,
well.
and I stuck with you. I even tried to get another name, another title for the sermon, but I stuck with it. It was right in the text, and I thought it was alive enough to not to uncover the whole content.
Yes.
And the thing worked out to be personal. It just worked out to be real personal. How, they were scrambling over the highest seats. We do the same thing today. We just changed the furniture. So it
Yes.
got real personal for me. It got real personal for me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I want to ask you something, but it seems like, and that's what's my assignment, my wake up assignment today. What next? And the response was, and I believe we talked about this since it's just me and you on here, the connection to Matthew 6, verse 1, doing things to be seen of men, doing your acts of righteousness to be seen of men.
Right.
That's probably what I'm going to preach Well, no, that's what I'm preaching Sunday. And I was going to ask you, since you came up with a title that was so profound, what was your title?
What was the title for what?
Matthew 6, verse, when you gave us the assignment for Matthew 6, 1 through 13. I got all my notes here, but you didn't give a title. And I know you had a very unique question. Let me see if I wrote it down. I don't think I wrote it down because at the time, yeah, I don't think I wrote it down. But it's all right. It's all right.
I actually taught that on Sunday morning. That's what I taught on Sunday morning.
Really?
Was from Matthew 6.
Oh my goodness, that's such a powerful text. I was mesmerized with it when we brought it up. When you brought it up, when you gave the assignment, I was mesmerized. But
that idea of how to make God intimate in public, is that what we were dealing with for Matthew 6?
Yes. Woo. How to make God intimate in public. That was it. I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, how to make God intimate in public spaces, I think is what we were talking about. And again, the gap there's a gap because he says it's about how you act, but it also is about how you believe. And there's a gap that exists between how a person believes that translates into how they act. That's what I explored, was how does a person get from what I believe to actually acting upon what I say I believe? Because if I don't, then if I don't couple my actions with my belief, then my actions become performative. And so the actions that a person does should be a reflection of the inward relationship that is happening in one's intimate life. So then when I come into public spaces, there shouldn't be a differential between how I'm acting in public versus how I'm acting in private.
Yeah.
Because if there is a difference, then it's the overt sign that the disconnect is there. And you see it a lot. You'll see that people come to church and act one way, but they're and what the word is called functional polytheism. Functional polytheism is when you act one way in public that you don't act when you're not around people. It's functional polytheism because it shows that your belief is divided, is duplicitous. So yeah, that's kind of the whole idea of how, because everyone will say that if a person believes something, then their action should follow their belief. Everybody considers that, but most people don't follow that.
It doesn't always come out that way. A lot of
It doesn't
times
happen
what
at
we
all.
say we believe and what we practice are two different things.
Now, what's crazy is that they're in the Matthew 6 text. So we just gave two terms: orthodoxy, orthopraxis, and orthopodeo. So the orthodoxy is what you believe. The orthopraxis is how you act.
Whoa.
And then orthopodeo in Matthew 6, he says, do not be like the hypocrite. The word hypocrite is orthopodeo, which means is that a person is walking inconsistent from what they say they believe. So you have orthodoxy, orthopraxis, orthopedic, or orthopodeo.
Yeah,
and most people can't do what they believe. There's a gap there. Yeah, so that's kind of how I explored it on Sunday as well.
Man, that's my thing this morning was, who am I trying to impress?
Right.
Right. That was my thing.
Yes.
But thank you for taking the time to walk me through that.
Yeah,
because I'm preaching it Sunday.
Okay. Well, if so, then I'll send you. I should have written the notes that we dealt with when we looked at it. I'll send it to you.
I'd appreciate it, and don't not next.
No, you do not have to explain to me. I feel nothing but great gratitude and service to send it, and if it can help in development of what you'll say, we're going to say totally different things, but it'll still be the same message. To God be the glory.
It'll help.
Yeah,
it'll help. I promise you, it'll help. It'll help. Thank you, man. Thank you. Had a real personable day Sunday, man. That thing, and I'm grateful. I ain't trying to sound like no broken record, but you're helping us, man. Crenshaw would say, "You're building a monster."
And you you know what? I think I'm in the wrong verse. It was Matthew 27:46.
Right. That's our assignment for Saturday.
But what did you said you preached from it? What was the text for "It's time to go higher" though?
Luke 14.
Oh, that's right. We looked at that, didn't we?
No. Yes.
Me and you.
Yes, we did. And that's where it got started. And like I said, I stuck with the title. I tried to dance around and what have you, but I stuck with the title. It was right in the text. It turned out to be very personal. Matter of fact, I told the guys, I told the church, I'm preaching to myself. Y'all get to eavesdrop. I remember now. Yeah, that's how up close and personal it was.
Yeah, that's an amazing. We did that together.
Yes.
We went through that one together. That's a great text. That's a great text. Well, then I will go and listen to it. If you want me to, I'll go and listen to it because, of course, I wasn't able to listen like I normally do because I was going back and forth.
Please.
So I will definitely
appreciate it.
Well, and again, it also serves why that Saturday class is so good, because I think we've come away with about 4 different sermons that can be circulated and used. And matter of fact, my wife was asking me where that. Yes,
yeah. We have a note here. See this here, all these are passages lined up from our meetings to preach.
Yes.
This is my preaching schedule right here.
I just
Boom
told somebody.
shakalaka.
I just told somebody that the cohort for especially Saturday
Yeah,
gives
man.
us a
Bless the Lord.
reservoir
Bless
to
the
where it
Lord.
really does help with the study. It gives us and again we've done six. I'm sorry, we've done five scriptures now, and then of course last week we did three. We just went through three other texts. We just kind of did them all together. So yeah, that's
Well,
what I actually did that one, the John one for last Sunday.
I'm making a note of them.
Yeah,
First Timothy 3:15.
yeah.
Matthew, they're all here. They're all here.
I
They're
think
all
that's the
here.
best thing to
That's
do
my
because
preaching
it gives
schedule.
you.
Right.
That was the whole point of that set of the Saturday class because now you don't I mean it's almost most of them almost write themselves because they're just very straight to the point. And Sunday I don't think I was more than 25 minutes.
What?
With what I just told you, everything I told you was what I preached. 25 minutes. There was a couple other things, but other than that, and that's actually what I've been working on is to be able to distill what I want to preach into about 25, 30 minutes. And so it just, yeah, it was very good.
That's been my goal for the year, but I'm still, with our approach and its freshness, I'm still doing close to an hour, but I'm not stressing myself.
No,
I'm not
no.
stressing myself. It is what it is. Boom shakalaka.
Especially if the content is good, especially if the content that you have is not, you're not repeating content. And the other thing is bringing out new ways to look at the content. Then people don't sit idly; they're learning aggressively because the content that you're providing is causing them to look at the same scripture in so many different ways. So it actually works. To me, the time is not necessarily the problem. Now, what will happen though is as Maywood gets larger, you will have to compartmentalize those sermons because you might be doing multiple services and you don't want to burn through,
Right.
Right. Burn through services. So you might have to begin to modify for the advent of we can't just have one service. We have to have multiple morning worship services, and I have to preach both of those morning worship services.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've started to re-alter how I preach, and what I preach is thinking already that we'll have multiple services, and how do I sustain myself through multiple. And again, there's I think Maywood is going to get there. I really do.
I do too, bro.
And matter of fact, I bragged on your church to the church at Colorado, and talked about the work that's being done at Maywood. And so, yeah, one of the things I was thinking about was because the churches that I look at right now, and some of the churches that I'm watching, they're up to 5 churches morning service. They're up to 5. And the most I've ever done is 3. 3 worship services. And again, I did 3 worship services, even because I don't know if you remember. I remember when Harlem went to 3 service format. And whenever Shabazz wasn't there, I had to then duplicate those 3 services. It was a back burner at first, but some of the guys that I watched, the Church Without Walls, they do 6. He preaches 6 services.
Whoa.
And when you hear that brother preach, he's giving his all. So it's a good training platform to just say, I'm going to economize my sermons. And another thing, Neil, that you might want to do is take the hour and compartmental into part 1 and 2s, and split the hour into two different messages, so that when you get to doing your second service, you don't have to do the first. You can do the first and then have the second, and there'll be people will come back to see both. Just something to think about. But again, we're not at that place yet. But I just something to keep in your mind. In my mind, that's where we're going. We're not going to just one service. We're going hopefully to 2 services that will be at Maywood. And the reason
that has always been in my mind it has always been there. I may have strayed or perhaps been distracted from it, but all of that refreshing is coming back.
Yeah, I think 2 morning services are what we don't need. We don't need an evening service. Now I'm gonna give something away. Most churches ain't even doing it, but I'm gonna give it away. The thing that's going to set Maywood apart, or I know I'm gonna do it, is Wednesdays are no longer gonna be Bible studies. They're gonna be worship services.
Yeah, I saw Newark doing that.
So in denominational churches, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, they don't do Bible study. They do worship services. In other words, once we scale Maywood service to where we can repeat the worship experience, then we want to duplicate it throughout once a week, throughout the week. And we might not do it every week. We might just do it every month and have a worship experience on the Wednesday, where we do a little more, have something more vibrant than we do and different than what we're doing on Sunday. But my thought was that we would eventually get to 2 services at Maywood, because just the size of the building itself, we won't have an overflow.
Right.
We won't have enough space for overflow. So the 2 services will be the way that we grow the church out, before we have to start thinking about, where we really need to kind of make next steps to. And that's why I think we still are going to end up looking at the school right up the road, because once we can get to the 2 services, in order to get to the 1,000 people that we're talking about, we're going to need a new edifice space.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of where my mind is on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But if you saw the church in Colorado, that church in Colorado used to be 800 and something people. Membership wise, it's a very large church. They're not large anymore. They're about 240 people. But they have all of the thing about that church is that it has all of the aesthetics still lingering from when they were 800 members.
Amen.
So they are 240, but operate like they're 800. But again, the only reason why they need a minister is because their minister has to step away because of things that's happening. But they're gonna need somebody who can really take them to that next level. But it went well.
I pray that they are well or further along the road of being convinced that you're the God sent.
Yeah, again, I told you when that woman came up to me, to put it in context, the night I preached at the MIC down in Fort Lauderdale, a group of Southwestern friends, Alvin Daniels, Orpheus Hayward, we went out to eat at I think it might have been an IHOP. And then immediately as we were coming out, this brother from this Baptist Kojic church, he came up to me and said, "I'm a prophesying to your life." He said, and he just told me some things that I was like, okay. But that always happens. So right after service, this white woman, she came up and said what I told her. She said, "I'm full of the Holy Spirit and I need to prophesy to you." And I just sat there, and again, people was probably like, "What is this woman doing?" But it was quite ordinary to me. But when you put in connection to one of the elders and what he said, one of the elders said, he said, "Since we knew that our preacher was leaving, I've been on my knees in prayer for God to send us something." And he goes, a few weeks ago, his prayer was that God send him an answer, and he hasn't seen an answer. And he goes, a couple of weeks ago, the angel of the Lord appeared in their meeting and made them make a decision to turn back around on who they were going to hire, because they had passed up on my resume. They had told me that they were not going to select me at all. And then the elder said that he felt that in that meeting, the angel of the Lord spoke to them and told them to pick my resume. And he says, for the last 36 hours, I have been in travail because I know my prayer was answered. Everything you said, everything you did seemed to be answered. Now, again, all of that's in contrast, but it don't mean you're going to get the job. It's all good, but it don't mean you're going to get the job. So,
well, as far as
a matter of fact,
go ahead. No,
well, you never know, man. I've auditioned for so many churches, and I know God's will will be done. I'm not even in a state where I'm even thinking on it in the same way, because I know God's will is going to be done. And really, I was thankful to preach the gospel.
Amen.
To that audience. That more than anything else, I was just thankful to preach the gospel and that those people were able to have that experience. And wherever he decides to move us, we were fine. We were fine. So, but I thought it went well.
I think, my brother, that's the key. And I'm learning that. And one of the primary reasons why I am still in Maywood today is because of the conviction that I was sent.
Yes. Yes.
I've even tried to, but I was sent. And
trying to go somewhere else.
So I'm in it till yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah, I like that scripture where Paul says, I tried to go and the Holy Spirit led me hitherto.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what's going on, guys? We just kind of was chatting and talking, and how was everybody?
Man, I missed that video, Duke. I came in on the late end, boy. If you got that thing, I didn't quite get the website, but I need to see that from the beginning.
I was gonna play it. That's what we were doing tonight, was playing the video. We were just filibustering for right now.
Okay.
Dante, James, how did y'all Sunday go, and how's your week been, and all that good stuff?
Ours went okay. Lighter, a little bit of lighter crowd because of the holiday.
Of course.
No baptisms or anything like that. So I want to say our regular service, but just holiday impacted.
Yeah. The holiday. Well, I asked the minister where I was, if once he steps down, if he can mentor me. That man is gifted. Let me tell you that white man might be the equivalent of Rick Ashley. Not as well known, but he knows what's up. He knows what's up. That man knows what's up. I told him, I asked him right in front of everybody. I said, if I get the job, no matter what happened, will you mentor? Anyway, but what he said, to your point, James, was he was like, if you come here, you're going to see members. They're going to travel. This is a well-to-do church, so they travel, they go places. And he goes, you just can't take it personally. And I never really put it into my mind until he said it to me. And I thought to myself, how many times have I agonized over the fact that people didn't show up, that the crowd was light, that everyone didn't come in. And one of the first pieces, this is how I knew this man was going to mentor me. That's a guarantee. He said, when you operate in a church of this size, you can't let it bother you. You really can't. If you let it bother you, then you probably don't need to be in a church of this size that operates at this level. Because once you get to a certain size church, people, and especially if they have careers, if they have income, discretionary income, they're not always going to be present. They're gonna leave. They're gonna move. But the worship experience isn't about them in and of itself. Matter of fact, in Colorado, people go on Sunday. People will opt out of church service and go up into the mountains to be with God in the mountains. And he goes, you can't take it that serious. And once he said it, I was like, man, that's some good advice. I was like, how many times have I agonized over that? And it just freed me because I already used to have the mentality of, well, I'm gonna just go in here and preach no matter who's here. But deep inside, it did make me feel good when a crowd was there. Neil, that's directly to what we was talking to. I might not say it out loud, but internally, it did make you feel better when there was a larger crowd. And he goes, well, you don't need to be at a church of this size if you act like that.
I tell you, let me just interject. I spent some time with Wendell up north.
Oh, yeah.
On a weekend, the whole church went into the country to worship. The whole church.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be too far-fetched of an idea when it shows up, they go into the mountains, that the whole church moves up to the mountains, take their wheelers or what have you, boom, 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 their tents and all of that. Yeah. We did a whole weekend like that up in Rochester, New York.
It's something that I thought very hard about because they called it, in that area, they call it mountain mystique. That's the title, that's the term for it, that there is something about the Colorado Rocky Mountains and the area. And I saw it for myself. As a matter of fact, I've read and studied it to try to develop my plan for that church, and got there and found myself, I literally fell for it. When I got to one of the mountains, I said to myself, man, I could go up here and pray. I said, dang it, I fell for it. That's what's wrong with all these people. But you're right. You're right. And again, I think that what you said is brilliant, Neil, because in that setting, just like in Rochester, well, why don't we just go out here anyway as a church and have us experience there? But it really does free you from sometimes the angst of, will people be there today? And the idea is that we're supposed to be building the church for the unchurched anyway.
And look, if you don't mind me saying, my brother, it's a way I relate to it in connection with the text of Luke 14, scrambling for a higher seat. I connect that. I connect stuff like that.
That's an absolute connection.
I had to confess. I had to just own up to it. Right.
Well, and again, our Saturday class, coincidentally, the second half of the Saturday class deals with what's called the illusionary stage, and having to really deal with the mystique, the draw, the attraction to the stage itself, to all the things that allure in the pulpit itself that distracts us from, oh yeah, that's right, it wasn't supposed to be about any of that in the first place. But it happens. It 100% happens. I believe that at Southwestern, I hate saying this because I love my alma mater. I believe at Southwestern it's actually coaxed, where we get this thought that the pulpit is it becomes a thing of desire. It becomes a thing of desire, as if you could almost not be able to live without it. And you have to be able to crucify that pulpit so that you could actually stand behind the cross, is what I say now.
Amen. Amen.
The pulpit itself becomes a distraction to the cross because there's an allure to be there, as opposed. So yeah, that whole performative piece
Yeah, man.
it's
Yeah,
it's
man.
all over that. It's all over the New Testament, really, isn't it? It really is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
going higher with Jesus is that shift, right? Uh,
Yes,
of,
sir.
of taking the lowest seat
Sir.
and
Yes,
then being
sir.
called up.
Yes,
So
sir.
now you better watch it because I'll turn around and preach that.
Man, shoot. I'm gonna be listening to it too. I bet you that much.
Yeah, it's a good word, bro. It's a good word.
Shucks. Mm.
But James, I totally get that. It's like the church doesn't show up because it's the weekend, and that's why what Eddie said, because I mean y'all have to understand the people this is probably the most educated church I have ever seen in my life. It's a 240 plus church. There's probably 50, 60 PhD people there.
Whoa.
When I say PhD, I'm talking about graduates from Princeton, graduates from people who graduated and worked for Princeton University. This is on the eldership. People who work for MIT. These are high, so they are. They travel. They tend to go. You know what I mean? When you feel like you got a good life, you start going and stuff. And Eddie was just like, because Eddie, the preacher, before he was at that church, that church was about 300 or something prior to it being 240 down. But the church he came from in Baton Rouge was over 700 people. So he has a track record. You know what I mean? He's that's why I said I wanted he's got the DNA. Now he couldn't, again, there were some reasons why the church here in Colorado didn't grow, but he was, you could tell he was doing it. Whatever there is, again, if I never get to be there, I will be a little bit upset, but it's the Lord's will. But to be able to see something like that, just as a blessing. They could go so much further, but they have all of the tools. They have all of the tools to just be just a crazy church.
That's why the Lord arranged it to have a scholar like Dr. Moore to be selected for the function or the office.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. And again, to me, I thought the same thing. There's the two preachers that actually got selected over me. For some reason, just bowed out. And
What?
The two ministers
they bowed out?
Yeah, that were selected over me. Why they didn't choose my resume at first? They, for some reason, bowed out for personal reasons, and that's the only reason they turned back. And again, that elder said in his mind, the angel of the Lord visited their elders meeting and caused them to turn direct. He texted me that whole speech of how it went down. He was so disturbed Sunday. He was just so moved. Even the preacher's wife got up and walked out the church and walked into they have a prayer room at the church. She just got up and moved to the prayer room. She got up almost 3 minutes into my sermon and stayed in there just praying for Angel and I. And she said she was just moved and just got up. I thought when she first got up, honestly, I thought I had said something wrong and she was mad, so she left. So I was glad. I was glad when she turned back around and was like, "Oh no! I went into the prayer room to pray for you and Angel." So, all right, Dante. Are you still on the road? Is that why you put in? Dante said normal service, one baptism, amen. Family member of
Amen.
a member. Whichever one it is still a baptism, and that's
amen.
Great. Okay, so I'll play. Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
As he mentioned baptism, Sunday we went to Chipotle. We haven't been there in years. And we met a young lady behind serving the food who was listening to 2819 at one of their baptism services, and she was moved to be baptized. And so the conversation was, y'all go to church? Y'all blah, 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 blah. She wants to be baptized. So,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
We're supposed to connect with her this weekend.
Wow. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And it so happens that what I learned of 28, is from this class. So, man, be encouraged. I got better things to do than to blow smoke up your butt. All right.
Well, and again, 20 that I think that they do a different they do a different close than other churches. So they're the difference with 2819 is they don't they don't baptize people immediately.
No, they don't. I know.
They put them through their orientation process and their expectation process. Matter of fact, I would say that even Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, most Baptist churches don't baptize immediately. They will do a call and let people come down, and then and normally if you watch any of these churches, there are several people that come down because of their clothes, and then they will take the next few weeks to teach them all baptism, and then they will have one baptismal Sunday. And it's a genius idea because, of course, we say baptize immediately, but in that waiting process, that person calls their family, that person calls their friends, they put it on social media, it's then and so other people want to it's contagious.
Yeah, other people are encouraged to be baptized just by being present at the baptism that boom shakalaka.
Yeah.
And I think I found a Church of Christ that is implementing that.
Yeah, I think it's, again, if I would have continued even at Candy Heights, I would have gone to that model because, one, it allows a church, once it starts getting to some systems in place, the system in place is not just, why do we baptize people right after they confess, but why are we waiting for baptism? And I think the system that you put in place is because we want our target market to include others in their baptismal moment. So, and I'll show you why it works somewhere else that's a Church of Christ. So James and I are at Glass City. The last several weeks, there have been multiple baptisms. Most of them have been off the back of people who are all within the same family group or something like that, but it was somebody who watched someone else get baptized. And again, if you just kind of see it but don't understand what's happening, then you can't repeat that process. What's happening is, because they were all young people, I don't think anyone of over 30 got baptized. Is that pretty much correct, James? All of them,
except the one from the AA group.
Oh, yeah. Okay. From the one from the AA group meeting. That's correct. But everyone else has been a young adult. And again, I learned this in Harlem, that baptisms are contagious. I learned that from Ray Hendrickson. I never believed that at all until I was with Ray. Baptisms are contagious. And
where is Ray now? Where is he now?
He's in Hawaii for employment, but he still worships at Harlem. So he is on there doing the communion and all that stuff. Of course, they have in-person worship now, but he's still, matter of fact, he also helps them with their website and all that kind of stuff. So he's in Hawaii for his work, but worships out of Harlem. But again, I've already told him wherever church I go to, I'm going to have him come in, period. Because he just, again, that what Dr. Wells trained him and taught him that Bible study, and Ray is just he's a powerful evangelist. He's a great
man. I was there. I watched it.
But he taught
I'd like to get in contact with him myself.
Yeah, he's wide open to share. He shares abundantly. But he's the first one who taught me the idea that baptisms were contagious. I had never heard the concept in the Church of Christ, but then I started to watch us do it. That you can, and again, when I say these words, people will, especially white congregations, they feel bad when I say this stuff as if is wrong. But we used to engineer the service to where baptisms happen. We knew they were going to happen. And that's why we would strategically place people in the audience that were, and again, we placed people in the audience in the places where we knew visitors had a high potential to sit in. And we would sit there and we would shake our head and agree with the message. We had a whole format. We'd clap and say amen and stand up. We were excited for the message, but we also knew that it's contagious. And when it's contagious, other people will do it, even if they don't know why they're doing it. And it would get them either to the Bible study or it would get them to the baptismal moment. And I don't think they're doing that. I don't think that's what they're doing at 2819. I don't think they're trying to bribe people. The moment becomes infectious. And that's why when you watch Wheeler Avenue or when you watch Church Without Walls, when you watch their congregational close, that's why they leave the close, the invitation open for such a long duration, because they know of the infectiousness of the moment. They know it. I've never seen it fail, man. I watched Ralph West the other day make his invitational call, and matter of fact, the invitational call, nobody came down at first, and then he because he had a guest speaker. Ralph West got back up and did the invitational call, and 80 people walked out and gave their life to Christ.
Whoa.
Okay, so let me play this video because I can't be on here all night, but I got my in-laws in. And I'll play this so everyone can see. And if you want me to stop it at certain points, then I will. But it's just the audio is even better. So if you want the audio, I can send it to you. But the audio is just as good.
Send the audio, please.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we're just going to dive right into this because if you're a church leader, you probably know the exact feeling I'm about to describe. It's a Sunday morning, and instead of feeling like a peaceful worship service, it feels a whole lot more like a 5-alarm fire drill. Well, today, we're talking about exactly how to turn that Sunday chaos into peaceful, predictable church growth. And the secret? Honestly, it's not some trendy new marketing tactic. It's actually something much simpler. Standard operating procedures, or SOPs.
Picture this, an incredibly stressed, overwhelmed sheep, frantically running around representing that disorganized panic of, wait, where are the keys? And who is supposed to be doing what right now? If that hits a little too close to home, take a deep breath. It's okay. Your church likely isn't dysfunctional. You're just lacking systems. But contrast that frantic energy with the feeling of total peace of mind. That relaxed, calm confidence, that only happens when you actually have a solid system in place.
And really, this is the core shift we need to make together. We're talking about moving away from the draining reality of a personality-driven Sunday scramble, the one filled with all those chaotic last-minute questions, and stepping into the absolute clarity of a system-driven church. When everyone simply knows their role, teamwork genuinely does make the dream work. You finally get to stop relying on sheer willpower and coffee and start relying on a structured, predictable flow.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll talk about why we need to stop winging it, then why systems literally save your sanity. After that, we'll break down the 3 mission-critical SOPs, look at the remaining essentials, cover some traps you absolutely must avoid, and wrap it all up with a totally doable 30-day implementation plan. Let's get moving.
Stop winging your Sundays and the true cost of chaos. So what actually happens when a growing church relies purely on hope and good intentions instead of a concrete, repeatable plan? Well, the answer is pretty staggering. 70 to 90%. Just let that sink in for a second. 70 to 90% is the number of guests that most churches lose simply because they lack a clear follow-up system. When you don't have a plan for exactly what happens after someone walks through your doors, you're effectively letting all of your hard outreach efforts leak right out the back door.
Just as a FYI for class purposes, we probably need to establish something that I'm not sure if we've talked about yet. But prior to having that SOP in place that details what do we do when someone comes into the church, I guess my question is, what system do you think needs to be in place for getting people to your church? because there's no reason to have an SOP once people come to your church if you don't have an SOP for how you get them there. So at least write this down if you can. Is there a strategy currently for how people connect with your ministry? Is there a strategy or a system for how people connect with your ministry? Currently, you can say that there are at least 2 channels, you call them channels, that people connect with your ministry. You might have more than 2, but I'll just list them very quickly. And I'm saying that they connect with your ministry prior to coming into your door. Number 1, social media. And social media does not just occupy Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Please write this down. Don't miss this. Social media for churches should involve LinkedIn.
Really?
Absolutely. It should definitely involve. If it doesn't, don't feel overwhelmed when I'm saying this stuff, because it doesn't require much. The number one resource for social media that your church should be on is Twitter. Does anybody know why I say that?
No idea.
Anybody else?
Those who are on those 2 platforms, forgive me for saying it this way, are more business and professional focused and minded. And so therefore you end up getting a higher, if you allow me to categorize, higher quality of an individual.
Okay, I'll take part of that for quality. I think quality is and even if you, especially if as you identify who it is you're actually trying to reach, quality could be a great thing. I'm going to give you what I think is going to be the most important thing you're going to hear tonight. Here's why you should have Twitter. So in the food business, you put your times and the location of where you're going to be on Twitter, because Twitter is the most likely place people will go to follow where you're going to be at next. So the reason why a church picks up Twitter is so that they can immediately and instantly send out 9:30. We're going to be at worship here at 10 o'clock. Be there, join us. And the model of Twitter is designed to drive traffic and drive people to be moment to moment with you and to show up at the venue or location that you're designating. So when I had a food truck, one of the bases of that food truck business, and here's the reason why you want to hear this: food trucks don't operate like church, like brick and mortar buildings, because food trucks go from place to place. But even now, you will see that even brick and mortar does what food trucks do, because food trucks are reliant upon a customer base that is going to, watch this loyalty, travel wherever they are to find them. So Twitter becomes one of the main things that is used to get out where you're going to be. Now, you're going to be at the same place every time, but you will see now, if you go onto Twitter and look up a restaurant, you will find that there are a lot of restaurants that are stationary that still tweet out what they're doing, where they're going to be, sermon topic, XYZ. But I also want to ask, do you currently have a system, and what is the system? At least tell me part of it to get people to get to the building? Is there a system?
We're working on every member accepting the role of an invitation carrier to the extent where we invite 3 people a week.
Okay, very good. And that in and of itself is the system. Anybody else? In order to retain, in order to have a pipeline that deals with people who come in, you just need to have a system to bring people in.
We're working on that. We're not there yet. We're working
Yeah.
on that.
Absolutely.
Ours is not, well, ours is more of the fifth Sunday is our traditional friends and family day. But my struggle is we will announce it the week prior, but don't give anything in a person's hand or phone for them to actually execute those invitations. We just basically call it a friends and family, or no, actually we call it a dress down Sunday. So I am not excited about that system because I don't see the effect of it. But that's at least what they
Right.
have in place.
Just to help everyone out, I'm going to give you this piece of advice to, again, what you're seeing is that 70 to 90% of what walks in your door won't stay at your door, won't stay at your church. That's a huge deficit. How do we make sure that that's overcome? But first, how do you ensure that people actually come in? So I would say start within the immediate radius of the church and no bigger than that radius. Dante says Facebook, Instagram, website, mailings is all West Suburban. So, and I agree 100%. Dante, make sure that they are not, all of that sounds great. Just make sure that what you just listed is not activity being disguised for actual systems. So we got Facebook, we got Instagram, we got website, we got mailings. But at some point, we have to ask, is this actually turning into people coming to the church? I would say start within your immediate radius. So all that you're doing, all that you want to do, all that you're trying to do, start locally, as located as possible. Why am I saying that? Because if you can't get people from your surrounding community to become a part of your church, you are going to struggle with getting other people to. Would anyone go to a restaurant that everybody in the city says is disgusting? No, but even because if the people around the neighborhood don't go to it, why would you? So the reason why you start within the immediate radius is because of reputation. Does this make sense? And here's the biblical case study. We looked at it before, but the biblical case study is that Jesus started within his immediate area. His attention, the people, the murmuring, not murmuring, but the audience was in an immediate radius, and his name became proclaimed throughout all of the land or city. So start within your immediate radius. And see if you, and the reason you're starting within your immediate radius is to see is to test what's working.
You froze up.
Three people, not everybody convert. The whole church working together to convert three people from the neighborhood. James and Glass City are experiencing baptisms. How many of those are from the neighborhood? Dante says,
No.
facts, I can't get the message through. The person in charge is dictatorship, so I'm in the waiting. I hear you. Again, this is not necessarily something you might have to communicate, because I believe that all of the rules and principles we're talking about have to first be executed by the individual themselves, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the church first. It has to be your ability to know that it works, and when the church sees it works, they rally behind what works. They don't rally behind just who's in charge. They rally behind what works.
Mike, I was trying to hit unmute, but um I don't have none of our baptisms that I've been able to ascertain have been from the community. The only, again, I can point to, um Mike knows who I'm talking about, the guy Tim, who does what he does. He
Mm-hmm.
would bring people from his job environment, and I mentioned the AA, and so none of that is from the immediate community, though.
So our goal should be for the rest of the year. Our goal should be for the rest of the year to get one person to come. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not even saying baptize. Get one person from your immediate community to come to the church. If you could get one person from the community to come to the church, I would say that you are successful this year, guaranteed.
I
Uh,
mean, we've had a guest, but no, I mean, no, there has been no baptisms. Like
well,
there,
and we don't need the baptisms just yet. Although I'm reducing what I'm saying so that we could get to
okay,
something that's a little more attainable. So let's not focus on baptisms, as baptisms are the primary thing. Let's just focus, because what I'm trying to get to is, if you don't have a system for getting people to even come to your church, how do
right,
you then create? Why develop a system to keep people if you can't get them in there? So I'm working backwards a little bit, because the literature, this film strip you watching isn't really diagnosing how do we get people in the building. Now, some churches already have guests that come, but I want you to hear this, and they're going to talk about it in just a second. It's too infrequent. Just think about how often guests come to your building. And would you say that every week over each week, you can pretty much know that a certain amount of guests are going to be there? Are we at that point? Anyone at that point where they can say every Sunday there will be this many guests coming into our building, that we know we're going to have this amount of guests coming in? So that system, it needs to really be worked on. And again, we don't have to right now. Let's just try to get it to can we get one person from the immediate radius to come into the building? Then we're working on, at that point, Jay, what we're working on is, what did we do and how did we work to get that person into our building?
right, right,
What do we actually do? And again, Neil as well. Once I know, this is why I'm saying a repeatable outcome will dictate that once I can figure out what I did. So I'll give you an example. I've done a couple of videos now on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm on like 4 or 5 different sites. I've done several videos at this point. The other day, because I have a system now, I did a video that got more views than any video I've ever done. Now, I'm not uh, highlighting the views, but it was key because the first question I asked when it reached over 200 views was, what was so different about the content that I just created that generated that response? The second question I asked was, what was the hashtags that I used that generated such a response? What am I doing? I am analyzing the outcome so that I can then test that outcome again to see if I'm going to get the same result. After a while, you're going to begin to, and again, this seems this to, and I'm saying this clearly. Some churches do not believe in what I'm saying at all because it seems like too much work. I'm telling you, brothers, that churches that grow, churches that scale, take this very seriously. They know a certain amount of people are coming into their business. They know it. They don't even have to question it. All right. Let's move on from there so we can get to the rest of the video. If the house is divided, it's hard to implement. So I guess I will have to create my own content. And again, let me say this in a way that'll make sense, Dante. You're not trying to malign who's at the congregation. Your job as a child of God was to go and seek and save the lost before you ever joined a congregation. If there wasn't a thing called a congregation, you'd still be commissioned to go and save the lost. So what you're putting in place, and I'm telling you, if you're not in a ministry position, please do not ignore that you are in a greater position than the person who is at a congregation. You are at an advantage that ministers do not have. And if you underestimate this moment, you will find yourself at the back end like most ministers. Now is when you should be working that system out. Now is where you should be developing it within your own ministry. Because once you get to the church or in a role of leadership, you will find, and I'm telling you, if Robert Holloman was here, he would testify that I'm not wrong. You're going to antidote that this is the reason why it's not happening. This is the reason why it's not happening. But that's not the reason why it's not happening. You will find it ain't got nothing to do with that leader. And I'm not saying there's not bad leaders, but what happened to Robert was as soon as those leaders were gone and then he became the leader, the problem didn't go away. The church didn't grow. The church didn't develop. The church actually got worse. And he was crushed because he was under the assumption that these elements produce that. This is why when you're not in that role, it's why you want to try to, again, the same thing I encourage James as well. You don't need to have a position of anything in order to get members of the body of Christ to work together to try to grow the kingdom in your area. So I would advise taking and seizing on the moment to try to find out what works at that area now. Because you will find that when that leader is replaced or gone, you still, if you haven't put any of these systems in place, you're not going to answer it even then. And it's going to frustrate you because at that point, it'll be too late. If that makes sense. And again, this is why small churches have advantages because they can pursue it at this point in their life, whereas larger churches might be a little more rigid to do it. Smaller churches can explore these things. What's working for us? They don't have to have anything right. They can test what is working. Now, I'm cheating here because a part of that means you need to find out who in your area wants the brand of Jesus that you're selling. Yeah, you'll see that it changes the whole dynamic, Dante. I guarantee you. And I say the same thing to James. You could take it for what it's worth, but if you go ahead and start doing it now, saving souls couldn't make anybody mad, brother, unless they got the spirit of Saul. Reaching out to baptize folk and try to have Bible studies with folk and try to knock doors in my you. So are you telling me that the leadership there is so dictatorship that you can't go out and knock doors? Well, I don't want to be at that church, bro. That's a guarantee. But I don't believe that the command for me to knock on doors or shake somebody's hand is built on what some man says. That's the command that's given to all of us. And that's what you and the church friends you have, that's how y'all should be working. Let's help our church. What can we do? How can we get more involved and put ourselves out there for the glory of the kingdom? That's how I would operate right now. Yeah, I don't want to go too much further than that, but okay. Let's continue to play and go.
It is a massive, heavy cost for organizational chaos. Moving into section 2, why systems save your sanity and escaping the overwhelm. If the real problem here is chaos and losing guests, then repeatable systems are absolutely your ultimate antidote. It's simple. Consistency drives excellence. Standard procedures guarantee reliable quality across every single ministry area.
Just to stop again, the purpose, you think you can do it without a system in place. And can someone identify for me what is the difference between consistency and regular? I know this sounds bad, but regularity. What is the difference between consistency and regularity? And I would say that, unless James, I see you unmuting yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Consistency is actually, I was trying to find that right word. Consistency is driven, regularity is done, meaning regularity just happens. Forgive
Absolutely.
forgive the usage. We regularly go to the bathroom.
Yes.
But consistency says that I intentionally go to the bathroom to do something.
Yes. And just like this said, the reason why SOPs are important, these first 8, is because they give you the consistency that drives not just excellence, but drives trust. That's what she's going to talk about in just a second. No new person. I know your members can feel like they could trust you, but no new person can trust you yet. And what you're going to hear her say in a minute, and I know you can understand what this is saying. Can a visitor walking your building from Sunday to Sunday and get the same thing from everyone, including you? Or do they walk in and can't really anticipate what to expect? Where would you say your congregation is at the moment?
The latter.
And again, regularity is what all of us do. All of us have a regularity to our worship services. Not many of us have consistency in our worship. We've got regularity in our visitor system, where we got somebody who greets people at the door. We got somebody who smiles and shakes hands, but we don't have consistency. So that the experience every time we're together, that person feels the same experience. Someone on here has had a bad experience and left a restaurant or a store because their service wasn't consistent. Would anyone share a moment? And even worse, some of us have it and didn't go multiple times. We went the first time, the consistency was off, and we haven't been back since. Would anybody like to share?
This doesn't have anything to do with church, but I believe it's connected in
Yes.
light of our discussion. I have a mother in the gospel, well, had physically in Florida where I went to school, and there was a very unique characteristic about her that I observed, and that was when she served a meal, she did it graciously. I when I was in New York, they opened a restaurants up the street where they would give you, we were just talking about this, where they would give you so much food for your money. And I had, people would always go there and bring food for me on Sundays. When we stay at the building, we would go there and order a few plates because we know they packed full.
Yes.
When I went to the restaurant myself to order food, they just plopped the food on my plate. I never went back. I never went back.
Anybody else?
As you use the restaurant as a easy indicator, my family has had a tradition of eating Chinese food on Sundays. Something that my mother did, and we just kind of continued it. And so we frequent different establishments, but we have developed a certain taste palette per restaurant.
That's good.
And so we went to one that's closest to us, that Panda Express, or Panda something, and it did not fit our taste palette, and so therefore we have not been back.
And again, whether you know it or not, I think James, that you got the word of tonight. Developed a certain taste palette. I love that you have and again, the word that we're going to continue to use when we talk about this is the standard. It continues to come up because when I was operating in the business field with my own company, I started to really see how our churches, especially small churches, do not operate with a standard, do not operate with consistency, and are easily offended when you tell them that their regularity is not as James says, has the taste that we would prefer. And there are tons of other churches in your city who can meet their taste buds if you can't. This is the whole reason why we need consistency. Can I ensure that if I was not at the building, oh, this is a hard one. If I was not at the building, can I ensure that the quality of the service would be of the same standard as if I was there? Now, there's two things to demonstrate from that. One, if it can only have quality of a certain standard when you're there, then it means that your leadership is dependent, and the growth will only be dependent upon you. However, if the standard can be established, and that's why you need the system, if the standard can be established, oh, watch this, I'm gonna help you. Then no matter whether you're there or not, the consistency stays the same, and therefore the the organization can thrive with or without you. So have you ever been at a church where the members will only show up when a certain preacher preaches? Nobody? I
Yeah,
have.
that happens a lot.
I have. I have. And even there, what we're talking about right now deals with consistency, even in your pulpit. Oh, I'm gonna get done wrong for saying this. I'm wrong for saying this. The worst thing that I ever did when I was at Midtown was put half-rated teachers in charge of teaching people. Now, somebody got to help me here. They have to develop, don't they?
Yes.
But where would I develop them? Why would I develop them? I understand the premise, but I need a place to develop them so that when they get before people for the service, their development is not so obvious. Does that make sense?
Yes. And if you don't mind me saying, it could easily be connected because of a lack of awareness to climbing up for a higher seat.
Yeah, and I would add on top of that it's also just our way of trying to get people involved too soon instead of giving them a platform where they might be able to develop. So consistency is going to be a major theme. Most worship services are not consistent. There's a regularity to it, but it's not consistent. The impact. So just something to think about there. Any other comments on that? I mean, again, and this is not to be a downer Debbie. This is actually to all allow us to see the system actually drives consistency. And the reason why you need consistency, if you're writing this out as a 1 + 1 = 2, consistency equals trust. Trust will equal continued patronage, continued membership. When a visitor can trust that they're going to get the same thing every week, they'll continue to come back no matter what. As a matter of fact, when they can trust what they're going to get and know that what they get is of a certain quality, not only will they come back, but they will invite others to have a similar experience. This is how growth of a high rate occurs. And right now, many of your churches only have one consistent thing, but it's not a congruent consistency. So in other words, Neil is really good in the pulpit, but they are deficient in the praise service. So it lacks consistency, right? The Glass City Church of Christ might be consistent in their praise, but then inconsistent in, say, the way that the impact of the collection or the communion. But when it all cohesively works together for one major impact, you will find that people will come back to get a taste of that impact over and over and over again. And you have to, this is the last thing I'll say before playing the next part. And the job of the administrative preacher and the job of the elders is to make sure that that level of quality and impact never changes.
I want to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
And I'm just throwing this out there.
Okay.
We have a um, we have a practice or a custom, perhaps recently developed, when we would take the Lord's Supper and the offering prior to the sermon. And I think one of the reasons for that is so that the impact of hearing the voice of God is what you take away from the service. The flip side of that is what about having the communion and the offering, or at least the communion, the offering after the sermon, where the sermon impacts the communion and the offering in an effort to support this consistency that we're talking about with respect to the praise and the worship experience. Just a thought.
Anybody want to give some share their thoughts on that? I think that's a great question. Anybody want to chime in on that one?
That has been and I don't want to say a debate, but a um a challenging query for a minute. What always, even Neil, while you were saying it, what came to mind is the word that Mike said earlier that the congregation did not appreciate, was the word engineer. And so what the thing that I listen to is, what are we trying to engineer by its placement? I will tell you that
That's good.
my bias is to leave with the word, but that's my bias. Um, but if we take the term engineer in a positive way, again, we're talking about consistency. Um, look at no, let me speak to the negative so you can get the positive. Um, do we feel that the sermon oh, do we feel that the sermon is going to make them give more? It ain't about communion, it's about the giving. But do we think that the sermon is going to make them give more because of how we have emotionally moved them through the sermon? I think that's the negative aspect of engineering. I think what we have talked about this in this course, I think is much better when we create an environment that people give for the right reason. Then it does not matter where the the elements of that worship service is, because people already have the right mindset on giving. The sermon is not going to impact the giving. You know what I'm saying? Or on the flip side, you can still have the elements before and then give opportunity afterwards to, but again, that doing stuff like that shows what your focus is. If we want to focus, so create the right type of environment, um make sure that that consistency is there, then it does not matter where in the service those elements are.
I agree with that. I agree with you on that. That has, yeah. But we're working on an assignment in our Saturday class where we choose a word or what have you to write a paper on. And my word for the past couple of months has been transformation. And in order, in my perspective thus far, I'm noticing and I'm learning that there has to be some actualization. There has to be some action in support of, let's say, the sermon, right? That is that is taking place at the building to promote the continued transformation. That one of the reasons right now why we're doing, like a follow-up midweek Bible study is so that the lesson continues to actualize behavior that is rooted in the word that has been preached. And I know the engineering concept has to bear in, but if consistency is intentional as we're learning, then what's wrong with being intentional about effecting or actualizing transformation, which is the whole process of what God and the word and worship is all about?
My question is, who is the transformation designed for will dictate when it happens. Who that means, what is the audience that I'm trying to impact? That will dictate when it happens. So for me, because the giving and the communion were also a part of the unchurched experience, I placed it at the end because I didn't want, one, anyone to miss it. Two, I also wanted unchurched people to be able to participate in it. And the way we did it, the system that we used was that we didn't have communion tables or anything like that. We had people walk to tables that were up all around the building, and we had a shared experience because the impact that I was trying to create solved the bottleneck in my consistency issue. That the consistency was really regularity. Everyone knew the communion was coming. Everyone knew the collection was coming right after that. So there was a regularity to it. The consistency, and therefore a bottleneck was created. I alleviated that bottleneck by not just changing what we were doing, because change for change sake won't do anything, but a system was put in place that identified the market we're trying to reach, the unchurched, the lost. We wanted them to have a shared communal experience with us. And we wanted not just the congregation to have that experience, we wanted the unchurched to participate in that experience. And so therefore, where it was placed was significant and was purposeful to cause an impact that they could feel every time they came. So we oftentimes would hear not just from members, but when we did our communion service, we would hear from unchurched people that it was the word impact, I guess would be the one I use, but that it was something that they paid attention to. So I would say, who is the audience you are designing your giving and communion for will dictate where it is and how it is executed. And the system of where you put it at just needs to make sure that there is consistency to build trust. And again, I keep want to say this, there's a difference between consistency and just the frequency in which you do it. Because we all have frequency. What we want is consistency, and the consistency deals with the quality of what is being done, not just what is being done. So if you move it to the beginning or the end, if the quality doesn't change, it doesn't matter. And here's my statement. Finally, can I make the giving and communion as impactful as the sermon? Or is the sermon the only part of the service that's really impactful? Or the singing? And most churches can't. Most churches struggle with making giving and communion equally impactful as the singing or the preaching.
Don't you? I think. Just a quick word.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking about in putting it after, because I thought about it last weekend.
Okay.
The in the application slash implication of the message of the sermon
I got you.
being used to make to affect
Yes.
the communion and the giving. Something from the sermon is
Yes.
directly applied or implied in the service. Doesn't have to be a story or anything like that. It could just be a point or an implication that leads the person, and I think, could contribute to
Absolutely.
the transformation that's supposed, boom, 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 boom,
The
boom.
thing that I would want to know, I think that's awesome. The thing that I would add for you to think on to as you develop it is, how would you determine whether that impact actually occurred?
Well, by doing it consistently for a period of time and track
right.
some of the men. Yeah.
So yeah, there we go, Neil. That's what I'm talking about. So that's the system. Then the system is not necessarily the regularity at which you do it,
no,
but being able to monitor and find some way to get feedback to determine whatever you do, is it having the intended outcome? Yeah, that's at that point you're now in a system mindset, because you're saying, let's do this, but let's give a system to it so we can determine. Because what if you do it and everyone goes, I don't like this. Do you still do it, or do you, after having tried it, in my opinion, after tried it, move to something else and try a new way?
Right.
Until you find out what actually works. You're not catering to people. Again, this is why I would say you don't want to build your. And I don't know if anybody want to put any feedback here. You don't want to build your system off of just your church members. I know that sounds bad.
Right.
You want to build your church. You want to build your systems off of the unchurched. All right. Anybody want to add anything else to that? It's a hot cake.
Yeah,
I think it's a double. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I know I've been haven't been able to speak, but I'm finally
it's all good.
Stabilized. Apologize for that. I put a question in the chat, and the reason I did that was because one thing I'm learning about, I've been studying the doctrine of anthropology.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to ask questions relatable to create change. And with the right questions, like Jesus was good at this. Like whenever he asked questions, he didn't ask questions that he didn't know all the time. And for the most part, he did know. But he asked the questions for a relatable situation to change.
Right.
And so I practiced this on Sunday with the young adults class that I have. And so every question I asked brought them to relational before religion. Okay. And that because what happened is there was so much conversation going on that even the unchurched visitor, who was a boyfriend of one of the girls, he came up to me and said, I really enjoyed this class simply because I felt like it was directed to every human being. And he said, and it made me, I have to think about what I'm doing. And so I'm saying that to say, when you trying to create transformation and change in people with and you're creating systems at the same time, that what you're saying, Mike, is true. You're gonna need not only just data, but the influence of having everyone being relatable to making that change. That's where the challenge comes. Like so that's why I put that question
Right.
in. That's why I
Yeah.
put that question in there. Like, have you ever thought about or promised that you would gonna change something, but somehow you didn't? Well, what causes that? It's something inside of us. In every human being is something inside of us that pulls us away from doing what's right. It's called either sin, trespass, or iniquity. One of those three, because when we know what to do, but yet we still cross the line, that's a trespass. But whatever it is, it's something inside of us that's pulling us to do this kind of things. So that's kind of where my mind is anytime while we're talking, while this conversation is going, all these kind of things are popping up in my brain as it relates to, we really can't control people, but we can have a certain relatable idea that has them to think about making the change.
Yeah, and again, I think that the idea of transformation is a good idea that Neil is gearing his trying to gear his worship towards. The idea that I want to make sure that you keep is that moving things around won't cause that to happen.
No.
Because it's too sporadic, if I'm honest. Change for change's sake. And again, we have to ask the question of what are we doing that creates a quality of service. And part of that is developed by coming up with a system. So Neil can say, I'm going to move this from here to here. That's not a system. That's a decision. That's not a system. That's a decision. There's no way that decision will develop into a system that can then be determined to be something that can be done all the time, every time, to the same degree every time, whether someone is there or not. I'm looking for an outcome, guys. I'm looking for an outcome. My worship currently, your worship currently, doesn't produce a consistent outcome. This is why you don't see people show up consistently. This is why you don't see people saved consistently, because whatever you're doing is not consistent. The quality is not consistent. So we're working on whether we move it to the front or the back. What's the system? What about and again, what that means is I'm writing out what I'm about to do, why I'm about to do it, what is the outcome I anticipate. So then I'm gonna go a little further. Neil should not have to sit and watch all of that done by himself.
Sure.
Neil should be able to give that to another person and go, I want you to watch this and give me the information so I know the outcome. Mm-hmm. That's why if you move it to the front of worship or the back of worship, how do you measure whether the sermon actually did impact the message? And I'm gonna be honest, it's so subjective that it can't really be measured.
Absolutely.
Because if I went to a member and I go, how did Neil message impact your communion before or after? They're probably going to give me a dumpster answer. They're not going to tell me no truth.
Right. Yeah.
My question, my driving you is to put you in front of people who don't know you, who have not experienced what you're doing, and therefore the honesty they're going to go, again, my kids have gone to people worship service and go, this ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever taken a child to a restaurant and just give them something to eat, adults will sit there and eat it even when it's bad. A child will spit it out.
Yep. You're right.
You need to, before you decide whether I put something at the beginning or the end, or whether I teach transformation or not, what does it taste like? Is it something people want to eat in the first place?
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
it quality to begin with? Go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, I can attest to that. When I first started teaching this class, I had to I had to change my entire format because I could see what was going into the mouth of these young adults. They was like, nah, this ain't it. They this too much. And so once I simplified it, I saw who was going to stay. When I really simplified everything to a level where they could actually grab what I'm saying and try to implement some things daily in their life, because I'm trying to do two things here. I'm teaching a class, but I'm also discipling at the same time. And I saw, a different outcome based upon the change. So ever since I went to that format, I've been getting the same results with the same students.
Absolutely. Again, and even with, I think it's across the board. What I'm saying is across the board. It not only goes for worship, it goes for teaching, it goes for preaching, it goes for life groups, it goes for Wednesday night classes. And here's what you write down. What does it taste like without you there?
Right.
If you're the only person who can cook it to where it tastes good, then you've got a problem. If you've convinced yourself, and if the church is convinced that the thing being done at the church is only good if you're there, then that is the main issue. That means you don't have a system.
Yeah, because as soon as you're not there, then the
When you're
rats will.
not around, that class is going to be trash.
Yep, absolutely.
Therefore, there is no system in place. So the question then becomes, even for that class, what system needs to be put in place to ensure that when Dante's not there, that class is just as good and better as when Dante is there. And currently, there is no system.
Correct.
Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be. So the system would be, Dante, that you write out strategically everything you're doing, so that you would be able to teach another human being who's in that class how to do what you are doing.
Yes. Absolutely.
And you don't put that person up. You don't give. I can't. We're about to run out of time. Otherwise, I'd give you part of the next formula, which is how do you give, how do you create, how do you perform at the level where it's the same every time, and it's all in how you train who's gonna come behind you to do it. Now, I'll be honest, I have been in churches where the person was not trained and came behind another person to do it, and so the quality that the church wants isn't there. So okay, we got to go. So it's a missed expectation. And again, I'm not talking about, it will happen with members as well. It'll happen with members as well. As people will come into your church, and some of your members will tolerate it. They'll tolerate the service, and they'll tolerate the lack of communication. They'll tolerate the way that people will talk to each other. They'll tolerate the lack of consistency in the programs, the lack of consistency in the teaching. They'll tolerate it, but there are more people who won't tolerate it than that will tolerate it. There are more than enough people who won't tolerate it. So every part of your church, and again, not every part, the main ones are your visitors, your visitor outcome, your volunteer outcomes, your worship outcome, those three specifically. Are we producing something consistently? And and and, and don't be afraid. Most congregations don't want to hear feedback. They don't want to hear feedback. They believe they're already doing a good job. So they will never ask for an audit. Someone has to audit what you're doing. Someone has to be able to say you shouldn't really be doing that, because it's easy to mistake doing stuff, activity, for actually creating structure that can be repeatable. And I want to be able to know that 5 guests come to my church every Sunday.
Amen.
I want to not only know it, but I want to know how we're doing it so that we can continue. Again, I just want to know if any church that's on our call tonight, has anyone mastered that yet? Can you determine the outcome to a high degree of probability? These many guests will walk through this door today. Can anyone ask me why that's important? Please, I'll close. Just please ask me. Ask me. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why if you ask.
So that lost can be saved.
So that the lost can be saved, but I'm going to give you a more practical organizational principle.
Why?
Because how do you know what to prepare when you don't know who's going to be there? Ooh, I wish somebody would just talk to me tonight. Don't just leave me out here. Please talk to me. Neil's the only one talking to me tonight. How do you know what to? And some people cook. This is how I know the quality is the same. Is not really a priority. Some people will cook whatever they cooking because they already know nobody's gonna show up.
Well, I think if I may interject again,
go right ahead.
At this moment in my journey with the Lord, and etc. and etc., I am being prepared and trained and mentored to be a gospel preacher. That don't mean today what it meant to me back then.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if I'm going to preach the gospel, it means that the lost has to be present.
And so here's the engine that has to be behind that. I know that. How do I engineer it? I know that. How do I cause that to happen? I'm waiting for anybody who got the answer.
Well, we can start by equipping, by encouraging, exhorting the congregation to live as a culture, being an invitation carrier to at least 3 people a week.
But you know what, I agree with that, Neil. And if you allow me to take a page out of Mike's book for tonight's class, let's
Please.
dissect that even more. And we said it that no, let me speak to my context. No, let me speak to my personal belief and bias. I want to be honest with this. That because I don't trust the environment, then I won't invite.
Absolutely. It's 100% correct.
So we're trying to encourage, we're trying to exhort, we're trying to tell people that it's not about the preacher being the one to grow the church, but what the people of God are doing is saying, and Mikey used a great word earlier, we tolerate this because this has now become my habit.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to invite somebody to something that does not excite me, that does not inspire me. So one of the things I'm trying to do now is, as I'm building relationships with people, to find out what what causes them to want to invite somebody. What are they inviting them to? Yeah, some people gonna try to give the default answer. Well, we inviting people to Jesus. We invite. So I gotta flesh that out some more so that I can see what we do, and then I can, and honestly, Mike, then I can modify any system developed
Correct.
that will be more impactful. We talked about transformation earlier. That would be more impactful because now I am overcoming the challenge that prevents people from doing what I need them to do.
And there's also a level of honesty that all of us have to have, which is why I've left it blank. Currently, none of our churches knows what to do to cause people to come in on a average basis so that we know what's coming in. We have tried several things that are anecdotal but have not resulted in actual people coming in a large amount. This is why I continue to say creating that system lets you figure out how it actually is being done. So for me, no matter where I am, my system is the first thing that I do is go into the direct radius of the community. Every church I've ever been at, I go into the direct radius of that area and ask one question. Do you know this such and such church? I've done it at every church, and not, I would say 10 times out of 10. Do you know what people normally tell me? Even houses across the street don't know that the church is even present. So I need a system that's going to get people to come to my building, which means, one, if you're writing this down, and this, I don't want to give you too much stuff. It means, one, this is why I said start with your immediate radius. They have to become aware that you are there. Once they move from awareness, this is standard textbook nonprofit organization here. Once they become aware that you're there, and you have to determine what is the system that we use to make them aware that we are there. What is the system that we're using to make them aware that we're there? And I need it to be consistent. Number two, once they become aware that I'm there, then I need them to become aware that they care. What does that mean? That once they become aware that we're there, that we exist, they then need a reason to care that we exist enough to want to come to where we are. So I now have to give them, and again, the care is not getting them to buy anything or buy into anything. The awareness to care means that, but they become, and the only way I can describe this is has anyone seen the St. Jude's Hospital commercials?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna very quickly, well, quickly is an understatement. I'm gonna play it real quick. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I'm just gonna play it real quick. I'm gonna play one very quickly. I should have started. Oh, okay. This is the one that get me every time. I might cry here. Uh-oh. I just want you to watch this. Now, everyone so far said that they know about the St. Jude Hospital commercial, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That means currently every one of us is aware. Oh, this is so good. You can't make this stuff up. But my question is, why don't you care enough yet? You are aware, but you clearly don't care. Now, watch this. The awareness and the careness is still not the final step. I'll just see if I play it for you. I'm only going to play a little bit. I'm not even going to play the whole thing. Oh, man. Okay, fine. I'll play this one.
It's not a toy he wants this holiday.
Nice clothes, not on her list.
What these kids want, your kids have. Their health.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting for kids who aren't as lucky as yours.
The discovery that St. Jude can help save children close to you.
Our treatments are used in hospitals all across America.
Thanks to our research, St. Jude has the world's best survival rates for the toughest childhood.
I want you to listen, if you can, to what they just did. I didn't let you listen to it all, but I want you ought to play it. They're geniuses. They're geniuses. Do you know what they just did in that 1 minute clip? They didn't sell any. They did sell, but they gave a call to action. But what they really did was they made you aware of the impact of what they do. That's all they did in their advertisement is they made you aware of the impact of what they do. And of course, this one's a bad one, obviously, in my opinion, versus some of their just tremendous ones that they do. Let's see if this one is it. 1, 2. Look, yeah.
My name is Braden. I was 5 years old when I came to St. Jude. I'll try and shorten down the story. So, I've been having these headaches that wouldn't go away. My mom, she was just crying. What they said, your son has brain cancer.
It was your worst fear coming to life.
Watching your child grow up is the dream of every parent. You can join the battle to save the lives of kids like Braden by supporting St. Jude.
Do you see what they're doing in that commercial? They are making you aware so that the awareness can become careness. And then ultimately what they're going to do is give a call to action, because this is the part that most people can't get. They made you aware. They got you to the point of caring. But why is it that people still won't give their money? So even if I make somebody aware and I get them to the point where they see the impact of what I do at my church to care, the question is, how do I get them to commit to becoming a part of stepping through the door to become a part of my church? And that is St. Jude will continue. And that's why every time you go to YouTube, you continue to see that commercial, don't you? Right?
Yeah.
You don't give. I don't give, but there are millions of people who are going to respond to that message. And let me tell you something, my friend. The million people might only give $1, but $1 from 1 million people, if I'm not mistaken, James, is how much?
$1 million.
$1 million. Currently, you don't have anything to make anyone care about what you're doing, and you have zero things to make someone aware. So before we can talk about getting people before we can talk about getting people saved, we got to talk about how to get them through the door. This is why in every church I've been at, I first go canvassing around the community in order to make them aware. And even if I'm the only person who does it, I'm walking to make people aware. I eventually try to get other people from the church to become desirous of making people aware. We don't need to get all of the city. We don't need to canvass all over. There's 5,000 people in your immediate radius. You got a mega church in your immediate radius, and most of them don't know you exist. They're not aware. But even if they are aware, they're not aware enough to care because you have not yet showed them impact. And the impact comes from the consistency of the quality of service. Now, here's why I say that. Because James said it as well. When I can produce a quality of service so good every time, the members will run out that door in order to tell it and make people aware. This is why I need to create the system that creates the consistency. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
St. Jude is brilliant at it. They are brilliant. That advertisement is going to go all over the country. And the four of us have never given to St. Jude, and yet before tonight is out, guarantee someone is going to commit to giving money to St. Jude. That they are going to win 4 new people today just by that advertisement. They're going to win 4 new people. They and you think it's random. They know all 4 of us have seen their advertisement. They know all 4 of us will not give to their advertisement because they were never putting that advertisement up for people like us. They know who their target market is. I asked today, I said, who is their target market? Well, it definitely isn't me because I'm at the point where I care. They've got me more than just aware. I care. I even said to my wife, I'm going to give money to St. Jude. I literally have said it, but I haven't done it yet. Well, what's holding me back? Man, if you could figure that out, if you could watch St. Jude and figure them out and then apply that to your church, you can grow your church you can grow it overnight. What is the one thing at your church currently that has any impact at all? Don't tell me just the sermon. What at your church actually has impact that could make another human being care what you do? Can you name it?
I think I want to call it relationability.
No. That's not going to be enough to create impact. If relationability could create enough impact, it already would have. It just stands to reason. If relationability could create that kind of impact, then it would have already done it.
I'm looking at the fact that we have a few people who stayed as a result of Love Feast chapter at our second Love Feast.
Correct.
And that's at the top of my consideration with respect to as the reason why they stay.
But here's my only thing. You don't know it for sure until you talk to the people to get the information. If you told me that relationability, relationships, friendliness, I'm sure they're going to say friendliness. Most churches believe they're friendly anyway. What about, I would say, what is the question really is, what is the impact of Love Feast? And once I know what the impact of Love Feast is, that's what I want to make people aware of. Matter of fact, that then becomes the very thing that I've already told you this before. I telling the congregation to go out and try to bring people in, it just won't happen like that. Doing it together creates the momentum to make awareness possible. But if you can answer what is the impact that Love Feast has, then you are closer to creating a system around what works. So what is the impact? Is the impact the service? Is the impact the actual Love Feast itself and interacting with the community in that way? What is the actual impact? Because once I know the impact, that's what I want to make people aware of. That becomes the face of what Maywood Church of Christ should be.
I believe at this point, I know that the journey is not yet complete, but to get across the awareness that there is still room, if I could use the expression, at the table. I'm sucking up Luke 14. So
that's a slogan, but that's a slogan, but you need the slogan won't build impact. What you just saw with St. Jude was this. Here's what you saw. A child is sick, and if you give money, that child could live. And no one should have a child who can't get well. They are letting you know what they do. We help sick cancer children get well. What does the Love Feast do? What does it do? That becomes active and not passive, because I want to know when I'm going to tell you what the unchurched person wants to hear. How does the Love Feast impact my life? How is the Love Feast good for me? Why should I bring me and my family to your Love Feast? I'm asking you to answer that.
And this is where I'm at with respect to that answer.
Yes.
So that
everybody should chime in here.
So that you can experience the love of God up close and personal.
That's not impact.
Well, that's what impacted me.
Yes, of course. Of course.
What was the question again?
My question is, what is the impact that the Love Feast, what is, in other words, the unchurched, the unsaved person, when you go, hey, will you come to the Love Feast at the Maywood Church of Christ? Here's the first question they're going to ask. Why should I come to the Love Feast at the Maywood Church of Christ? So then what is your answer to that? And it needs to have impact. So in other words, Dante, if you tell somebody, hey, do you want to come to the West Suburban Church of Christ? They're going to ask, why should I come to the West Suburban Church of Christ? What impact would it have on my life? And you would say, you would say,
I would say currently, I can only tell them about my experience and what it does for me. How it impacts me. That's as far as I can go, because there's nothing else in place.
Okay, so yeah, I'll come right to you, James. So Dante, what that means is currently your church has no impact. So the baptism that y'all had yesterday is not going to consistently happen because you don't know what impact you provide.
Sure.
And therefore you can't create, and Neil, you ought to hear this, because you don't know the impact you provide, you can't repeat it. Go ahead, James.
My answer is the true answer is I don't know the impact, but the church answer would be something to the effect of, we are a place that recognizes what causes struggle in people's lives, and we think we found the answer. That's my church answer. Because ultimately, I'd hear you clearly that you have to have, and just like Dante talked about when selling the car, you have to have something that is intriguing enough for that person to want to care or want to come. Care and come are synonymous to me in this contextual conversation.
Okay.
So because I don't know that person, especially if it's, as you talked about before, if it's a cold contact, I do know that there's a commonality of people struggling, and we know that that commonality of struggle, Dante just mentioned it, was sin, iniquities, and trespasses. And so I would design something that is non-churchy language that speaks to that, because I know people struggle. Remember when you and I were talking about what do you say to a cold contact, and you said something you never really developed, came back and fully developed it, but you the way you said it is, have you ever wanted a reset in your life? You remember that, where and helping people recognize that coming to, I'm going to say church, but that's not the word I would have used, but coming to church, coming to our church will give you that opportunity to have that reset. So it's just different things that I know from a church standpoint, not necessarily a true impact standpoint, because I have to create something in order to have an impact. And we are at the stage of needing to create it.
And again, hey, put this up. Fix that up. Again, the there has to be an acknowledgement that, and you don't have to be the preacher to create what I'm talking about.
Right.
You don't have to be the preacher. So for me, this is why, and I'm Neil. I'm only using it as an example. So when I told Neil them to do the love feast, there are two particular things that create impact that they then could share with other people. As a matter of fact, not only could they share, but would become viral. Here's what I said. Number one is that the impact was providing the community with a meal for those who did not have one. To share a table in order to give other people a meal. Why is that impact? Because then when I go to someone and go, have you ever, I'm Mike Moore from the Maywood Church of Christ. And I don't even have to say that. If I wanted to scale that for impact, it would be simply this. There are people within the Maywood area, within a 2-mile radius of the Maywood Church of Christ, who have to figure out how they're going to put food on their table, and their children along with them are in what is known as a food desert. At the Maywood Church of Christ, we provide a weekly meal called the Love Feast that provides meals and opportunities for families to not only be fed, but to be nourished in the spirit. If you're one of these families, now there's several things that are happening as I create impact. One, I now have framed my entire messaging for my church based on the impact. And it also identifies who I'm trying to reach. Please close the door. Who I'm trying to reach in that area. I'm not trying to reach everybody. I'm trying to reach the families within that radius within New Maywood who are looking for a place where they can share a meal. Number two, the other piece of impact that I gave Neil was that they were to give a portion of their collection to a member at their church out of the design of hold on one second. They were supposed to give, they could do as little as $25. They were supposed to give it to a member, not to a non-member of their church. Why? Because that's impact. At the Maywood Church of Christ, we understand that as a child of God, it does not keep them from having to deal with hard times and difficult moments. But at the Maywood Church of Christ, because we believe that we are a united family, we provide financial assistance for our members so that they can get through tough times. And we do it at our love feast, where we give money so that those who are less fortunate do not have to struggle. If you are someone who struggles, now what am I doing? I'm creating impact. And then I could put a woman on a video of a sister at his church that I gave $25 to. Now, it might not seem like much, but that $25 gas card, scale on impact, will hit someone within the 5-mile radius of Maywood. I'm not trying to reach all Chicago. Again, your impact should be directed towards your demographic in the immediate context. But when you don't really know your impact, it also means, write it down, that you don't know your audience. So I gave them two things to scale for impact. That's why when they went out to go door knock, they don't need to door knock by going, have you came to Christ or nothing like that. They door knock with the two pieces of impact that they provide. Because people need to become aware to care. The awareness is the what I do. The care is the how I do what I do, so that I could get the person to participate in what we do. Does that make sense? So yes, even at Glass City, even Dante at West Suburban, there has to be something that's there that you, and it doesn't, please hear me, you don't have to have a single thing there just yet. Make it up. At the Glass City Church of Christ, we've seen how music can transform a life. And at our church, we have one of the most dynamic praise teams in all of the immediate, I don't know what area that is, James, area. If you are, they have a soup kitchen there. At the Glass City Church of Christ, we believe that everyone needs and should have a meal. Do you know that you can get people who are not even homeless or hungry to come to your church simply because they identify with your impact? Not that they even need it. You could get families to come to your church simply because they understand that Glass City is feeding the homeless, and what a great thing, and I want to be a part of that. It has nothing to do with, it is how do you build the bridge to get people into the building? Mm-hmm. Currently, you think to yourself, we have nothing. But you have all you need, especially when you just look at your demographic. I'll go back to Glass City because me and James have talked extensively about this. That James wants to target single moms in the immediate area. So then what do you have that impacts them for the single moms? What do you have? And it doesn't have to be something that you create that's not there. It could be something that's already there, but you have to frame it in a premise where it has impact, where they will go, he's talking to me. And it's not just that you're only going to reach out to your local demographic. That's why I showed you the St. Jude's commercial. Neil is in Chicago. Dante's in Chicago. James and I in Toledo, yet we all have seen the St. Jude commercial. So they're not, they have advertised universally, even though they haven't gotten any of us to give, because there's more people within the city of Toledo, or within the city of Maywood, or the city of West Suburban. In my immediate context, I'm reaching out to my immediate demographic because I want to impact them. That's my immediate impact, but other people will see it. One of the things I just learned was that the videos that I've been putting out, you know how many people actually watch those who try to act like they didn't watch it? Now, here's the reason why I know that people were watching it, because I got a text message the other day from a friend who was like, man, I've been watching them videos. Now, he probably ain't liked none or subscribed to nothing, but he immediately went, because he's a preacher that is part-time and is trying to grow his church, and all of my stuff is geared towards preachers, part-time or full-time, who are trying. Well, he immediately got attracted to it because it has impact for him. So you have things already at your church that has impact. You have a children's worship that has impact. You have a van ministry that has impact. But you have to create the impact with the consideration of, if an unchurched person came to me and said, what do y'all have for me? How would it impact my life? You got to be able to answer that question. That then becomes, and again, I don't want to give you too much, but that is, you got to at least think about that when you're trying to get them through the door. How to keep them becomes a lot easier if you know how to get them.
A place where nobody eats alone or eats or struggles alone. I like the concept of the struggle that what's his name mentioned.
Okay, so let me put it into a better frame. Even once I develop that, the question becomes, and I'm going to ask you the question: who are we targeting this to?
Young adults and up.
And how does it impact them? Why should they care? You don't have to answer it, but you do have to begin to think about what you're doing at your church. Why should someone care? And when you frame it that way around who you're trying to get to your church, you will begin to then think about what we talked about, which was the consistency of it. Because the more people show you that they care about your love feast, Neil, I guarantee you, the more people, and I've already shown you that at least we've already seen 44 people who actually say it matters. They just haven't shown that it matters enough for them to commit fully, although there are families now from the second one who have said it mattered enough. And again, I'm just saying this to you out loud. If I've seen twice that it works, why would I stop doing what works? Because what works is hard to do because it requires consistency. Plain and simple. If it works, why are we not doing it? We're not doing it because it requires something that most churches are not willing to put forth, which is the consistency of doing it time and time and time, especially when they're already burned out. Every time, until we start getting new people in and training them to now do it. And you got a whole group of people. When it's a small church, it's hard to stay consistent because it's just us. But if what has worked multiple times, then you want to keep it, because that's how you create the consistency. The consistency builds trust. The trust is saying that what you're doing, I like it, continue to do it. And I'd say that for everyone and everyone's congregation is that you have to create impact through the consistency. Ooh, bless you. Okay, it's getting way too late. If I don't get to sleep, I gotta, yeah. All right, any questions on that? Again, we're not gonna just jump past this. I just thought before you watch the whole video, you should at least hear the back end of that. Everybody in church growth always talks about retention of those who come into the church. What they never show in the church growth is how to get them in the building. Any questions on that at all? Or any questions that you might be thinking? Or Mike, what do you think about? I love to answer it, but go ahead and say it if you want. If not, then we're going to close out. When I was in Colorado, sitting with the minister there, I asked him a question about they have a school attached to the church. And I asked him, did anyone in the school live in the immediate area? The minister, this was in our staff meeting with all other ministers and staffs. Okay, I got you, Dante. A minister got up with all the other staff. The senior minister said, immediately he said, he asked me a question about it because he said, I know you understand what's important here. And he said, if I could do my ministry over again, I would do what I think you're thinking. And he said, when you asked, were there any children for the immediate area that went to this congregation? It's because you see the immediate area as the mission field. And I said, absolutely. And I said that if I was here as the senior minister, I would spend all my time in the immediate area around this building, and I would inundate this area with all kind of information about this church until somebody told me they were sick and tired of me. I would make sure that everyone in the immediate area, I would walk it, I would canvass it, I would deal with it, I'd talk to people, I'd work, and he said, if I could do it over again, that's what I would do. He said, that's my only regret. Because he said, I now know that was the way to grow this church. That's what that white man said to me the other day. And I went on and told him, I said, I keep trying to tell people. I said, I tell my people in the class, I tell them the same thing. You already have impact at your church because you already got people there who've been impacted. If you want to, one of the keys you could do, Neil or James, is get some cards and get the members of your church to write down how Glass City has impacted them. So you can get or how Maywood has impacted them, so that you can know what people are saying the impact is, so that when you then turn it outward to talk to the people in your immediate area, you could tell them what impact there really is.
Okay.
Because over 150 people at Glass City has said there's impact. Over 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus people at New Maywood has said there's impact. Well, I need to figure out what it is. And then once I can figure it out what it is, I need to be able to reproduce it. Okay. All right. God bless y'all tonight. It was wonderful to be with you. I went over because we haven't seen each other in a while. My wife's going to be super mad. But I asked that you continue to pray for me as I look for preaching employment. We had a great time in Colorado. Next week we leave, or this upcoming weekend, we're leaving out to Tallahassee, Florida. So we just asking God for preaching power and staying power until he opens the His wisdom is infinite. So we trust in him. So just continue to keep us in prayer with that. And also some of the churches are always asking, what am I going to do if I get a preaching job with the Scholar? And I keep telling them the Scholar is not leaving anywhere. So pray that the churches that I'm looking at will also value what we're doing here and the value it has in the brotherhood in a larger context. Anybody else? If not, that Neil, you on mute. Are you saying something?
Pray that we'll put in the legwork, get busy with the legwork concerning Love Feast 3.
Yes, and again, the thing I think we were going to probably try in our 4th iteration is the introduction of some more heavy multimedia. That's why I need you guys to take video of the Love Feast itself so that we can show the impact and not just talk the impact. That's kind of why the videos have been requested, so that we can put together the social media dynamic to inundate the social media airways with the impact that way as well. It will help when you guys go out, guaranteed. Okay. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Father, you're wonderful. You're gracious. Oh, wait. I forgot to tell y'all. Did I tell you this the other day? Neil, I think you was in class. Was you in class when I said it?
When you said what?
I think he was, about us closing our eyes in prayer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned it.
I'm sorry, I be freaking people out when I don't close my eyes. I apologize. Father, thank you so much for this night, this 24th day of May. And we're just prayerful. We're thankful that we were able to sit together and talk. Father, all the things we're talking about doesn't detract from the fact that your Holy Spirit must have your way. And we're just asking that that we can experience an abundance of your Holy Spirit at our congregation, an abundance of of the Comforter's movement through our churches in helping people come to Christ, and those who are in Christ to be solidified in their faith. And we thank you for what you're going to do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. See y'all later.
Much appreciate. Massive
Neil,
appreciate. Massive love. We need to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have every week I have you in my calendar. So you, again, every week I have you in my calendar, so you don't have to ask for the appointment. We just need to meet so we could put the stuff in place and keep moving.
We'll talk on tomorrow.
So I have a doctor's appointment at 8:00. I'll be back probably around 9 or 10, and then I have my daughter's graduation. So just.
What time is your daughter's graduation?
In the late afternoon, but we can still talk.
Okay. We'll talk between 10 and 12.
Hi. All right. Love y'all.
Much love. Appreciate. Until.